Hey guys, it's me, Julian Greystoke. I'm here for a true read rant and review. I'm wearing my N7 shirt. Normally I would wear my Uncle Scar shirt or my Slytherin shirt because I'm gonna ruin everybody's day, although my lips are Slytherin green, so there's that. But I needed Commander Shepard to give me strength today because we are going to talk about a book. This book is deeply, deeply entrenched in the world of AuthorTube, the writing community here on YouTube. That book is Eve the Awakening by the ever-popular Jenna Moreci. If you are a huge fan of this book and cannot stand to see it torn to little tiny pieces, then you probably should go. This is not the video for you. Also, I need to get out of the way, disclaimer, I do not dislike Jenna. In fact, I really enjoy her videos quite a lot. I have binge watched all of them, I rewatched them, so I love her videos. She wrote a really crap book though, you guys. It's such a popular book because of her YouTube presence, and she's just so good at marketing herself. I had a fear that this book was overhyped and that it wasn't really going to be my thing, but I really wanted to give it a fair shake. I am also a writer. If you're thinking to yourself, well, you go do better. I don't know if I'm better than her or not. You can be the judge of that. Links to my book are in the doobly-doo. If you're getting pissed off already, just console yourself that Jenna is a bazillion times more successful than me. Does that make you feel better? Okay, so let's get to it. Let's talk about this book. I have tried to arrange this in some sort of semblance of logic, but this is probably going to be a really long video. I apologize. Okay, so right away I knew I was in for it, like within the first 2 pages of this book. I have it on my phone, and I have to read this to you because it was supposed to affect me, and it affected me by making me laugh my ass off, okay? So, at the beginning of the story, we have little baby Eve. She's sitting in her yard. She's waiting for her parents to come home. She sees them coming home. Then disaster. A split second later, a fiery red truck hurtled through the intersection and smashed into the little blue car. The crash sounded like a thunderclap in the middle of the street, a turbulent, ear-piercing explosion. Alright, I'm with you so far. It's a crash. Her parents' car flipped once, twice, 3 times, then slammed into a nearby telephone pole, wrapping itself around the wooden post. With a deafening boom, the truck landed upside down atop the wreck, crushing what remained of the car until it was nothing more than a mangled aluminum carcass. What the fuck? That was so ridiculously over the top that I was laughing. How fast are these fucking vehicles going? Okay guys, some background. I have been in a car crash that resulted in the vehicle I was in rolling over. It rolled about 1.5 times, and that was down a hill. For a car to flip 3 times in the air, and then the truck, it wraps itself around a telephone pole, and the truck then lands on top of it. What? No! I feel like baby Eve lives on a suburban street where the speed limit is like maximum 35. So how fast were these vehicles going? Okay, I got that out of my system, but man, I was off to a bad start with this book right away. Let's talk about the characters. First of all, let's talk about Eve. Eve and her laughably tragic backstory. Eve is hated by everyone and hates everyone, especially other girls. Eve's behavior towards other women is pretty bad. There is one other girl who kind of gets to be her friend later, but Eve clearly never likes this girl, and she's only around because Eve's other friends say that she should be. Otherwise, Eve is like guy friends and hating on other women constantly. Eve is also the best, like no one ever was. Eve is a chimera, which are like these super souped up people with all of the advantages. Super smart, super strong, super fast, and they have telekinetic powers. And of course, Eve is the strongest one in the world. Eve is so not like other girls, and she is such a painfully obvious author insert fantasy that it kind of hurt me. Don't get me wrong, most people do that with their first book. I did that with my first book. Granted, I was 13 and I didn't publish that book. But I shouldn't harsh on Jenna too much. I really do love her videos and all that. What about her love interest? Her love interest, Jason, is the most bland blandy pants that was ever bland. His only character trait is that sometimes he gets really angry while he's fighting. But it never comes to anything, it never goes anywhere. Also, he gets kind of creepily overprotective of Eve in a way that's supposed to be endearing. Basically, the only character that I liked was the character of Percy, and that is because he felt the closest we come to a real person. Otherwise, the girls are brats, except for the one who's like the tech geek girl. All the other boys are abusive, sexist asshats. The teachers are useless at best and cruel at worst. The military is completely impotent and useless. And conveniently, all of the people that Eve makes friends with are super rich, so they never have to worry about the logistics of how they get their monster alien fighting gear. You all know that characters are where it's at for me, so if the characters are bad, yeah, I'm probably not gonna like the rest of the book either. But stick with me, because I stipulate that this whole book is bad. So Eve is the most powerful chimera in the world, and she goes to this school because she wants a business major or something, I can't remember. And meantime, aliens are attacking the world, these alien creatures called interlopers that are basically indestructible. The interlopers want Eve, they want to study her because she is the best of the best. But rather than just grabbing her because she's a lonesome crabby pants with no friends, they decide to break her spirit.
Not a great plan.
Then Eve and company, of course, figure out how to kill the aliens. It turns out that the only way to kill the aliens is to shoot them in the heart, and their heart is this tiny little organ in the back of their throat guarded by a super hard skull on one side and a row of super hard teeth on the other side. But Eve and friends figure out that if they shoot out the teeth, they can shoot the heart. Which, of course, absolutely no other military personnel have figured out, even those whose jobs it is to be sharpshooters and snipers. And then Eve and friends decide that the bullets that they're using, because they have access to all kinds of guns, because one of their friends is conveniently a gun nut, they decide that their regular bullets aren't killing the aliens fast enough, so they decide that they need diamond bullets. But they need shatterproof diamonds, because diamonds, like many other gemstones, can shatter on impact. I actually researched this because I was curious. But I talked to my husband, who was in the military, and he said that they don't need special diamond bullets. They just need better bullets. Bigger bullets, better guns, that they could totally have for more reasonable prices than going out and finding a way to get all of these shatterproof synthetic diamonds. Once they have these completely superfluous diamonds, they're like, okay, we only have a limited supply, so let's be careful. And like 2 scenes later, they're all doing the spray and pray with these valuable diamonds that they never run out of. Meanwhile, Eve is going to classes where, of course, she is harassed by her professors, because why not? And she's also going to combat class. Not self-defense, combat class. I don't know why they need a combat class, especially since we've established that the aliens are pretty much invincible. Of course Eve is the only girl in combat class, because why would any other women want to learn how to fight? Psh, psh. This is pretty clear to me another author fantasy where the author imagines herself going into this place where she can beat the ever-loving shit out of slathering misogynists. And Eve does. Eve routinely obliterates these guys. I mean, she breaks almost every bone in their bodies. There's one guy who's like her main male bully. There's the female bullies, which are straight out of Mean Girls, and then there are the male bullies who are just pigs. Character depth? What's that? So Eve beats the ever-loving shit repeatedly out of this guy, and he's able to stand back up. He's able to go to classes like the next day. When we finally have the climax of this bully subplot, Eve just breaks his nose again. It doesn't feel victorious, it feels tacked on. So the world building in this story is pretty poor, and one of the things that I always wondered about is why are there no special schools for Chimera? Or prisons if we're so afraid of them? Like, where is the Xavier School for Gifted Chimera, am I right? Eve has to train her boyfriend Jason to use his powers because when people come into their abilities, they have no idea what they're doing. You know, it's more dangerous just to let them wander around not knowing how their powers work. Let's talk about the fight scenes in this book. There are quite a few fight scenes. I am 100% certain that Jenna has never in her life seen actual physical combat happen in front of her. Characters are all doing these not impossible, but really stupid and inefficient fight moves. It doesn't feel natural. It feels like, you know, and then she jump kicked him in the face because that sounds like it would be a cool looking thing, when Eve could have just punched him and his nose would have caved in. Also, Jenna likes to use the word flailing in her fights. He ran at the alien, flailing his fists. The alien came forward, flailing its claws. This is what flailing looks like. That is not a helpful combat move. I'm just gonna put that right out there. And now let's talk about the writing itself, because Jenna does give writing advice videos on YouTube. All of us writers know what we should be doing, but actually executing it is kind of hard. So I'm not saying Jenna needs to be a perfect writer. I'm just going to point out some of the flaws in her writing of this book. She uses a lot of dream sequences ended by an alarm clock going off. It's pretty much a constant motif in the first half of the book, but it gets really repetitive. It probably didn't need to be there at all. This book has all of the cliches. This book was like 80% cliches and 20% post-consumer product. I also have a theory about Jenna. This is just a theory, this is pure conjecture, and the way that she writes. You will watch many of her videos and you will learn that she is an extremely rigid plotter. I think this has come to bite her in the ass a little bit, at least in this book, because there are some really pointless scenes or poorly done scenes where it feels like in Jenna's plot line, she was like, okay, I need this scene here and this scene here and this scene here. And she never really realized, because she had that rigid structure that she really was kind of forcing herself to follow, that some of these scenes do not work. A lot of Jenna's the mechanics of writing is not very great. This is something that I've been working on a lot with my own writing, so I especially noticed it going through this book. A lot of things like Eve stood to her feet. To her feet is redundant, we understand. What else would she stand to? Eve thought to herself. Again, to herself is redundant. Who else would she be thinking to? There's also a lot of suddenly and just then happening in this book. One thing that I know that Jenna Moreci likes a lot, and she has even mentioned it on Twitter, how you will pry her italics from her cold dead hands. She uses a lot of italics. She clearly does not trust the reader to know what should be important in a sentence, because there are so many. You just start to read them like normal words and it loses the entire point of having there be italics in the first place. Something else that happens in this book that doesn't feel planned and definitely feels more like an amateur move is the point of view changes without warning. The majority of the book is in Eve's point of view. And then randomly, without warning, without any indication, she will switch to another character's point of view, sometimes for as little as a few paragraphs. And finally, my last complaint, we've gotten to the end, is that the world building in this book is very poor. I found myself in this situation a lot. So this happens. What? But why? How? It just does. Oh. Okay. Personally, I like to understand a world well enough to know why and how at least some things happen, but we are really expected in this book to just take everything at face value. So that was the last thing. Did you guys read Eve the Awakening? What did you think about it? I will stop talking your ear off. As you know, I post new videos here Mondays and Fridays. All the links to my social media are in the doobly-doo. And I will see you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!